Barbie dolls, cavemen, society.
Yeah,
it goes all over the place.
As usual, though, our talks are usually all over the place.
The tax thing really does annoy me though, and you're right. Like we've all just, we're just kind of like, whatever. Yeah. Like we've just accepted it, and I never even really look into it that much.
And now when someone says they don't pay, we're all like, what? Why don't you pay your taxes? You should pay your fucking taxes. Like everyone agrees, but here's the thing: I think everyone still sort of agrees, or at least understands why at least local state taxes and city taxes actually make sense.
No, I'm not saying they're not necessary. There definitely needs to be some form of a tax to pay for all the things that we take for granted.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Police and whatever, all that stuff. Right. But some of them got to be bullshit, right? Like some of them, especially in Massachusetts. I mean,
Massachusetts, man.
Right. I mean, ours are probably some of the worst, other than like what, New York or California. I don't actually know their numbers, but
yeah, I haven't done any kind of looking into that to know.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. But we just sort of let it happen.
I don't even really look at my pay stuff, which is bad. Like it's like I feel like I should be in the habit of really like making sure that I'm not getting screwed.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, there's so much there to read that out of laziness. Again, we've just overcomplicated it. Like, just give me my money.
Yeah, that's it.
You're gonna get this for this.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, here's this, but a lot of it's not really yours.
Yeah.
And we're gonna take it away before you even get it.
Yeah. Yep. Basically.
And it just disappears.
Yep.
It's on paper saying this is what you would have had.
Yeah.
And now it's not there. Don't even tell me that.
Right. Just tell me this is what I got.
Right.
Yep. I agree.
I remember when I first started working at BK, and I looked at my first pay stub, and I was instantly pissed. Like I was counting up all the dollars that I would have got, according to my hourly rate, but you don't really get that.
Right.
How much did you get paid for your very first job?
I think my very first job was at McDonald's, and I think it was around 15 or 16. And I only was there for maybe a couple of weeks or a month. I did not last. Maybe a couple months at most. And so I think I made... Man, I really don't remember, but it was probably I want to say even $5.50.
No way.
I think...
I guess I believe it because you're older than me. So at BK, I was making $8 when I first started.
I remember making I remember I could start to make 6 and 7 pretty quick in my life of working. So I definitely remember but yeah, I'm pretty sure when I started, for some reason the number $5.50 is jumping out at me as my starting wage. But I was super part time, and I was 15 years old. Right. I was so never had a job before, and that was very clear. Right, McDonald's loves taking those kids in there.
I know.
Yeah, sure, come on in.
Dude, that was my first, and honestly, fast. You have to learn a lot in a fast food kitchen. That is
a huge. Any kitchen is a bump in the butt, and you're just oh shit, wait, what?
You have to learn to multitask.
You guys do what here?
I just multitask while trying not to get burned or slip and fall.
Right, or stab yourself or someone else.
Always remembering to keep your hands clean. That's the last thing I'm thinking about when I'm fucking slaving over your sandwiches that you're
sweating.
12 double cheeseburgers.
I can't see because there's salt in my eyes, and I gotta stand over this hamburger and care. You know what I mean?
The first week I worked there, I remember the thing that stood out to me the most was the way my shirt smelled when I got home.
Oh, dude!
I just smelled like a giant batch of fries and onion rings.
Yeah. Yep.
And I immediately
grease
loved.
Just somehow gets on everything.
Oh, it's so gross.
It's so weird and
it's bad.
Disturbing. Yeah.
But I totally fell into just the grazing on all the onion rings lying around, chicken fries.
That's how they get you, dude. That's how they fucking get you.
Every day, man.
Yep.
And then my stomach started getting. I my first 5 days in a row, I ate onion rings every day. I was just these
are the best,
dude. It's.
Sir, we're gonna have to let Jesse go. We've seen a major shortage in El Rings.
We would do it, and it really wasn't a dirty kitchen. We honestly kept it pretty good. Yeah. But we would occasionally go and take a chicken nugget, eat it, and then go take our gloves off, restart. But you just don't have the time. Most of the time, you don't have the time to make a sandwich. Because at least the one I worked out was just nonstop.
Yep, for sure. That was one of my favorite parts of working in the kitchen. Was the fact that if you do it right, and you're also on top of getting your shit done, you can eat pretty much whatever you want. Just quick snacks, but you can just grab a handful of something,
right. cheese.
Yeah, some like a sliced meat. Just grab a couple slices and some cheese, roll it up, and just quickly throw that down, or some ranch dressing. Throw it in a bowl.
Oh, what?
Dip it
with the ranch.
Oh, you don't like ranch.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? But I did learn a lot from it. Yeah, I think it actually is a good first starting job.
And cooking is one of those things. Like, I don't know if you've ever cooked or had any kind of passion for cooking and that you wanted to cook for yourself like more often than not or something like that.
Very few times in my life.
But it's like one of those experiences. It's just like not. I don't know, fishing. I guess like it's one of those things where it's like a skill. That,
right, and you work for it.
But cooking is more essential than fishing. Like fishing is still sort of like I like fish. But like if you don't like fish, then you're not going to be a fisherman. But you still should learn how to cook. So to me, it's more of a fundamental thing that everyone should have at least a slight interest in, because it's about feeding yourself.
Right.
In the very end of it, just think of it like this: if it ever comes to the point in your life where you're alone, you know what I mean? Like you don't live with your mom anymore, you don't live with anybody, and you're just doing your own thing. You eventually will have to cook for yourself.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, if you don't, you're just going to be not only unhealthy, like I.
Well, hopefully you've got a good job that can sustain takeout, because that shit ain't cheap.
Yeah, no.
Or going to a restaurant,
I've always wanted to learn how to cook, but I've never really been in a situation where I've had to. I've always wanted to make a really good steak dinner.
See, and
just really take like an hours. I don't even know how long it takes. But just really put some effort into it and marinate it and do this and that.
Yep.
But it's just not something I've ever learned about, and that's something I think should be a requirement in school. Like we've had this talk before. Half of that stuff is a fucking waste. Like teach me automotive stuff. Teach me about taxes.
But don't make it. I mean, for a lot of schools, for my high school, I went to a vocational school, and that was obviously had a bunch of shops, a bunch of those things that you're talking about, and it was but you had to pick one, but. Make these classes mandatory from day one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
First aid, self-defense, survival skills. Those are, in my opinion, practical. Teach people things that they're going to run across in their life.
Yep.
Especially cars and stuff. There should be classes on how to buy a car.
All kinds
credit.
It's like every vehicle.
Everything. Credit, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. General.
I don't know how it got to the bullshit. I just don't get it.
Well, because it's all a business, and they just need a sustainable product, and they know that they can spit out this and get this, and so what this is a stupid, really. So I have a friend who's a teacher, and she's just having a very hard time because her students she's looking at the quizzes and tests and stuff and benchmarks where they need to be hitting in their curriculum for the year, and she's saying she's really worried because the way that a lot of the students are, there's a few in each class, and she has 120 total students. So there's maybe 20 of those 120 actually care. Yeah. So the other 100 are rowdy in class, and they're always they don't do the homework, and it's all online. They can go on a website, do I think she said one of the homeworks was just 5 questions, and just online you do them, and then you log in, or you know what I mean, you submit it and then you just log out and you get credit for it. Right. But no one does it. Yeah. 2 people did it, literally. So
that is a job I have a lot of respect for. Even though I don't agree with the overall educational system, a friend of mine is also a teacher, and she told me the level of bullshit that's in it because the state is involved. She tells me how it's just so ridiculous. I
think at this point in my life, I believe in an educational system, but I don't necessarily back the one that we've got at all.
Right, yeah.
I think the one we have now
is
shallow.
It's not practical enough.
Super shallow, and it's not realistic.
And all it is testing your ability to retain textbook knowledge and do multiple choice tests. But that was most of my experience. I need to learn practical stuff. I think everybody should, but unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. That's got to be a really tough job.
It's surprisingly I guess it's always been frustrating for teachers, but this is super frustrating. Oh yeah, Westworld's wrapped up filming, so
there's another season.
So there's another. Oh yep.
When is Game of Thrones supposed to be coming out again?
Dude, not until next year.
They're having 2019,
I think. Yeah, spring of 19. I'm pretty sure. Dude, they're just shooting. So we have. I think we have I'm praying for 6 movies, 6 at least hour and a half episodes.
Do you think that's actually what's going to happen?
I'm really hoping, dude. I'm dying for it, dude. I really want
I say the more time, the better.
Dude, yeah. I would sit there for hours for that show just to let them unfold.
It's definitely
I'm looking for a particular video that I want you to see. It's from Cracked. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's not from Cracked. It's from this guy. What is it?
College
Awaken with JP. This guy, he is hilarious. Someone I've seen a bunch of stuff from. His delivery is interesting, but
I'm out of college. I'm unemployed.
He nailed some good points for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I went to college for 2 days, literally
2 days.
Out of the pressure I went through for my family and again school, just like you said. I signed up for a community college, Bristol Community College, and the second day I had a new class the second day, and the teacher handed out syllabus and took attendance. And I was just like, I just fucking did this for 12 years. Like, in my head, I'm like, I'm all set, and I just left. I was like, no, I totally agree with what that guy said. I mean, listen, people who get an education, get a degree, and make their money back and live happily, good for them.
Good for them, yeah. But they're the minority.
But there's definitely a system there, and they're benefiting it. Mm-hmm. They set you up to end up paying them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, insane amounts of money.
Crazy amounts.
Books
alone are stupid.
I know. Yeah, I don't like that. Doesn't even make any sense to me.
Nope.
You're not even keeping it, right?
No. Most of the time you just selling it back for almost half back, or if that. Because they depreciate in value because the new textbooks are written like every other year.
Right.
So it's like they're waiting for the next edition. So
I remember
it doesn't even really
up textbooks while I was in school.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get them some old hand me down. Sure. I used to actually collect
all the names. Textbooks. I definitely have a few. There were there were at least I swear 4 or 5 that somehow I just never returned. Yeah. And they just never. They never went looking for these shitty fucking textbooks. And you had to put the book cover on them. Do you remember that? That was like a thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got that sticky stuff almost every year.
I had the red cloth sheet. One. I found one of them.
Well, eventually I started making. I actually made the.
Did we have to buy them? Was that like a thing?
Well, they were sold in packs in the store. I used to get them in packs, but they were cool, fun colors and stuff. Yeah. And they had a fun texture. But eventually my grandma was like, "Look, we're not spending money on that shit. You're just gonna take a big old paper shopping bag and you're gonna cut that shit flat and you're gonna trace out your book and you're gonna fill that shit." Yeah, that's what I did, and it was way more durable in the end. Like, it didn't sure, it got a little rough around the edges, but if you had to redo it, you could just fucking easily because if you got a tear in it, and it would just tear like paper.
Right. Yeah.
But you could, of course, if you got a good clean piece of it, you could draw on it all the whole time you got it. You could write notes on it. You could doodle on it. It's just fucking paper.
It's interesting to me that most people I know or have come across would say something like, "I wish I could go back to school," and I do not share that opinion.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so glad I'm done.
I had moments. I made good friends there.
Yep.
I had some cool teachers along the way, and obviously overall it's an experience. You learn about yourself and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, I really don't miss it. Yeah. I don't miss sitting in a desk for hours being told, about things I don't necessarily want to hear about, or carrying around heavy textbooks. And it's just weird. It's a weird. It's again, how did it get to that? Because this obsession with trying to be sophisticated or something, or have the image of it, being all obedient, and we should be doing way more hands-on stuff, in my opinion. And again, actual practical things that you're just gonna come across.
Yeah. I believe in Japan, there's, at least in some of their school systems, if not, I suppose their entire school system in general, I believe it's the first 2 or 3 years that any kid is in school, officially, not I guess first grade, basically, not kindergarten, not preschool, but school.
Yeah.
Once they're in the school system, the first 2 or 3 years are completely dedicated, non-academic whatsoever, completely dedicated to learning about manners and morality and things about that.
Huh.
Things like that.
So yeah, just imposing
just the foundation is this is how
being civil. Yeah.
In this society, this is how we expect you. And to their defense, because I completely love the Japanese for the most part, the Japanese culture and people. Every people and every culture has their weird tics that I don't necessarily agree with, but that's just what it is. But in particular, I love Japanese culture, and their people are quite fascinating.
They are. Well, the discipline and their history is very rich. In when they get into things, they go all out.
Yeah.
And that fanaticism.
They are just masters, dude. They are masters to a degree that you just think, wow, there is magic in the world.
Yeah.
Like somehow they just
they're very
and like
technical.
I guess you could say the same thing about Chinese, like because China obviously is much older and larger than Japan. Japan is an offshoot of old Chinese people, I believe, who were just like fuck the Chinese.
Yeah, well, yeah, that I know China was definitely first.
Yeah,
that much I know for sure. Yeah. But I don't know.
They've been around for a long time.
Yeah. Biggest, no, not the biggest country, but biggest population. I think it's like over 1.5 billion now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I know India is a close second. They have over 1 billion as well. Yeah. That's an interesting.
We only have 300 million. We're not even like halfway to them.
No, but I mean, we still that's still a sizable country.
It's nothing. It's not small, right? But it's because like you're looking at it like our states are the size of a lot of European countries.
Yeah, and even some African countries.
Yeah, so we could totally just be like a giant landmass of all of these different countries.
There, in reality, there is still a lot of the United States that isn't built upon. I mean, think about just the Midwest.
But a lot of it's just naturally you can't really. There's no need or any reason.
Well, that's just because we haven't hit that number yet. That's the only reason.
Well, eventually, I suppose. Yeah, no, we will absolutely invade every usable, flat, buildable.
More people are being born than dying.
Up to the cliff, dude. Up to the fucking cliff. We will find a way to make that cliff the best cliff ever, but we're going to build right up to it.
Yeah. You ever think that? I wonder if ever. I mean, I know that there are already structures that we've made underwater, but I wonder if it would ever get to that point.
You know, what I mean, I'm
that
sure.
Much space was taken
again,
up.
once we hit that number, I mean, like so.
If we hit that number,
I believe the number is supposed to be like something like 10 or 10.5 billion. That the planet, the planet at that point after that can just no longer sustain feeding everybody. Like the food.
How did they figure that out?
I don't know. Sophisticated maths.
Huh.
Maths. So, yeah, I don't know. Beyond me. But
another.
So yeah, and we're at like we're at like
we're at 7 billion already.
7 point something.
Yeah.
Which no, but like almost 8.
7 billion. That was in 2011. In 2000.
What's the point of writing current if you're getting something from 7.6 billion? Yeah. So yeah, we're working on fucking, but it's crazy.
I personally, I don't think 10 billion would. I don't think that the second we hit that number, that all of a sudden the Earth would just.
Well, no, but I'm saying eventually at that
there's
point,
definitely a number.
There's going to be a timer started,
right?
And another timer started right next to it at the same time. And one is the people getting more people a second, and the other one is food down a second, and one food per one person. Eventually, these numbers are going to get to a point where this is going to be 0, and this is going to be around 10.5, 10.1, 10.2 billion people. Right. And we're all going to be like, fuck. Hopefully we'll get to the stars by then, and we'll just, or like, we were just saying, maybe colonize the ocean. Stay on the planet. Let the surface recover for the next, whatever, 100 years or 200 years.
There really is so much. There's got to be so much more. Not saying that we should destroy more natural beauty than we already have. But I feel like there's a lot of uninhabited space. There's got again, we were talking about Planet Earth earlier. All those shots that you see, all of those wide open. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of hostile places, but we could find a way. If there is still tons of land, the Canadian wilderness alone, all those woods up there,
that's flat enough. You can definitely build up there.
Russia, most of Russia's uninhabited.
Yeah, but you got to build buildings and have people who don't care about the freezing cold all the time.
I know, yeah.
And that's it. Basically. Yeah, they have short springs and summers and whatever, but it's gone in 6 weeks, or something stupid, and then it's back to bullshit.
Right.
So, generally speaking, when you get that close to the center of the Arctic or whatever, yeah, man, you're just, you got to find people got to hardy up. But we'll also have, these crazy, with our technology now, we'll have these crazy modular fucking pods out in the snow built all together with these crazy deep foundation poles, so they're stuck in there. They're deep in the snow and the soil down to the bedrock or some shit, and whatever, all that shit. We'll have a nice interior, so we don't need to go outside.
That'd be interesting. I just pictured
everything's inside.
Yeah,
Everything's
inside. Yeah, that's exactly what I was just picturing. Like there wouldn't be playing outside anymore if you were up in the Arctic Circle. You'd be
really.
like, maybe that would be like the rite of passage, like getting drunk for the first time. We'd go run out into the blizzard,
outside,
man.
The polar bear.
Yeah, I could go punch that polar bear in the dick.
If you make it back, we'll buy you a round.
But I mean, you know, and there'd probably be like some type of, you know, what the heck is it called now? We're getting closer to virtual, you know. Virtual reality. So I mean, you probably could simulate being outside, and I could see technology getting to that point, which is, and then at that point, the line between reality and simulation starts to get blurred.
I'm telling you right now, if I find out, because I haven't actually tested any VR on my head, you know, I got a couple of friends now who actually have a VR head, like a decent, like a Vive or the one for Sony PlayStation. I think someone has the thing, either way, I forget what it is, but a couple of friends have it now, and my PC is actually totally ready for it. Like everything I bought just by happenstance, I didn't realize it when I was buying it, but when I put everything together, I realized on most of the boxes of the important shit, it all said VR ready. And I was like, oh shit. So I could set up a VR, you know, thing in this system, but I just obviously don't have the money for a fucking Vive or Oculus Rift or
Oculus Rift
and the other of the competitors, if there are some. But either way, if it ever happens where our society advances to where that's just like a super commonplace thing, is to just like plug in and somehow experience any virtual reality that you want. Like you just can dictate the rules of that world, and you know what I mean, whatever. Like I would probably waste away and die. Like I would never leave it. Like I guess I would eventually have to.
I mean, especially if they had all these different like loadouts.
Oh, dude, a million amazing whatever you want.
You could potentially experience these things without really having to experience them. But I do think that no matter what, you would always be like, I kind of missed out in a way. Like because there'd still be some people left who are like, oh, I've actually been to the whatever desert.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, but I would definitely do it. Yeah. I think it'd be cool. I always thought it would be interesting for there to be a true almost like a GTA simulator, just anything violent, and you could get away with shooting people, and you could also get shot.
This would be that world. You could set up whatever. Again, you could dictate any scenario.
Right, like I guess ultimately it would be the Matrix.
In a way, kind of, yeah. But in that way, where we are sort of setting up the Matrix again. Yep.
But then again, that line between simulation and reality gets blurred.
Yeah, I don't even care. I don't like reality very much.
I want it all to be fake.
I would much rather a reality where things were just much easier to handle and people were reasonable and yeah.
I think like some of the things that I would.
Well, for me, definitely like I don't know, like Everest simulator and just like
that would be crazy.
Be at the top of Everest. You know what I mean? Or like almost to the top and have to find the way up to the whatever and just like discover for yourself.
And I'm assuming there'd be a way to alter it where you could go back in time.
Oh yeah, sure.
That would
if the simulation has got it written in there, that'd be amazing.
It would just be that filter of like a whatever,
because
like
Google
a 1920s city or something.
I believe Google Earth right now goes back in time a bit.
No, does it?
You can. I thought you could see the way that.
Well, I mean, how long has it been around for?
Oh, Google Earth that's been around for.
I feel like you typed so much more than you needed to.
What should I have said?
I don't know. Google Earth start date. Man, I don't know. I just was like waiting for it to stop. Like, there you go. See?
Wow. So June 11th, 2001.
So it's been 17 years.
Mm-hmm. So they've had satellites probably even way before that. Probably like 1999.
They've been watching. They've just been. 80s. They just didn't tell me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, well, Google. I don't know, but still, it's yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Satellites that's an interesting thing to me.
Yes, we've got so many.
We figured that out. We mastered that. That's just insane to me.
I know. We've learned how to launch things into a perfectly steady or perfectly moving clockwork-like system, kind of mechanical machines up in space. And those machines do shit for us. It's crazy.
It is.
They do advanced shit really for us. They've made us as powerful as we are.
Would you go into space right now if you could for free?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Same here.
I would go out as far into space and never come back. I would just be like,
just get launched by towards Pluto.
Take me anywhere but here.
If you could somehow survive the journey, what planet would you explore?
Right now, probably Mars.
Really?
But yeah, because it's close, and I'd be able to see Earth from there or whatever, which I think is fun. And even though Earth would be like this big in the sky.
Yeah.
But no, Mars is very interesting, and I personally believe that Mars has its history, and we just don't get told about it. You know what I mean? But I'm pretty sure it's the people in control, people in charge. I believe that they're well aware of the fact that Mars has a much deeper history than it used to be, just like Earth, but it's devastated by natural disaster.
And it's just so much colder there
because it has no atmosphere, because it got burned out, because the civilization that inhabited Mars, which was probably the seed of humanity, probably the true beginning of humanity. Everybody, am I throwing you off?
The seed? Wait. Did you say that inhabited Mars?
Mars has a history, in fact, that in the sense that it has had civilizations.
Yeah, but is that a fact?
As far as I'm concerned, it is. It's like, if you look at the facts of photographic evidence on Mars, you're going to roll your eyes or whatever. But yeah, no, I mean, like,
okay. So, but this isn't something that's really been confirmed, though. This is a theory, which is fine. Everything starts as a theory.
Yeah, I guess it's a theory.
I've heard Mars. I feel like right off the bat, because it's our neighbor. It's kind of the close planet or whatever. It's the famous planet. Mm-hmm. It's been mentioned in the most movies. It always has had aliens tagged to it, and so it gets that sort of attention. No, why doesn't anybody have any conspiracies about any of the other planets? That's what I don't get.
Every planet actually has a deep history in our lore. You can look up any planet, and there's like all the Roman and Greek gods are based off of the planets.
No, I know that, but I mean, as far as like the claim that there's alien life, and people, I've only ever heard people talk about Mars in that sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, I feel like it's almost trendy in a way. But it's always been that way, and you kind of agree. Mars has always held a special place, and if that's true, maybe that's true for a reason. Well, Mars has always been a part of us. Well, yeah, I mean, but all the neighboring planets.
Now you're using the same thing I just said.
Yeah,
I literally just said all the planets have history or have a lore.
But why?
Why Mars?
Right,
why is Mars so?
Well, you got to think the world. Okay, so world.
It's the closest, but unless you have a telescope, which even today on this planet, and weirdly, as far as we know, the only people who've ever made telescopes, if that's true, still a frighteningly small part of the population have a telescope, a decent telescope where they could easily and nicely see Mars at their disposal. So it's like, but still, and so it's still, no matter what, it's always just this far off little point of like, why does anyone give a fuck about any of them, really? Well, how do you even know the difference if you're just looking up and seeing the difference between?
It's definitely.
It looks like a star. It's all lit up. You can't tell that it's a fucking.
It's from people looking at it. Yeah, but it is from people looking at the telescopes.
We do care about the planets, and we do really care about Mars.
Right, but we also care about our planet, and we have made up an insane amount of stories about our own planet. Mm-hmm. Which, so we could also...
it's to say... Well, that's not to say that the civilization on Earth isn't old. I believe human civilization's been here for at least according to the Bible, 2,000 years, and I'm sure way fucking longer than that.
Well, the Bible doesn't.
Right. So we'll say thousands of years, comfortably, the human race has been on this planet. So yeah, of course, we've got along... Our what we do, again, in our DNA is we make stories, and we tell, at least for a long time, verbally, was our history, was stories to remember. And I firmly believe that, this planet is visited by extraterrestrials on a regular basis. And, not only obviously do they exist, but they're all over the place. The universe is vast, yes, but the universe is populated. It's not to say that every planet has life or has sentient life, but I do think it's safe to say that there is a percentage out there that are interstellar faring, and they just get things that we don't get. They're different organisms from different areas and have completely different DNA and makeup, and
right, but everything you're saying hasn't actually been confirmed, though. This is something that you personally believe.
I guess I'm just stating personal beliefs, but I also feel like it's like, for me to try and I suppose if you don't want to be seen as a kook, which I just don't care about, but if you don't want to see,
I
then I can see. But otherwise, if you really think about it, I don't understand.
I don't think it's impossible. That's not what I'm saying. You know me. My general stance is I think anything's possible, but I'm not. I don't believe in a lot of things due to the fact that. Listen, if I feel like if there really was an alien situation, the first people to cover it would be the news.
Well, I don't think there's a situation necessarily. I mean, just
what I mean is anything like that would be truly confirmable. The news would go crazy over that. I'm not saying that the news is always honest or that there can't be other things going on.
The news just had the whole thing. Well, first of all, NASA confirms evidence of running water on Mars, like now.
Running water? What does that mean?
Running water, like moving like a river.
So water?
Yes.
Okay.
Water on Mars. Not just frozen water in the ice caps. It's stored away. Nothing like that. It's running on the surface. So that's interesting. Secondly, on the news, and it's actually been a big thing on the news recently, which again you say you don't really follow. So that's fine because most people don't. It's a waste of time. I don't necessarily disagree. But the internet does exist, and as geeky or nerdy as a waste of time as it may sound to some people, spending a good 2-3 hours on the internet and learning what's going on a week or a day probably wouldn't harm you. You know what I mean? Just to be aware of what is, because that's what the internet is right now. That's how it's literally changing the world as we know it, and in a major way. And if you don't now is the time to utilize it and just be aware of what's going on. There's no excuse now.
Right? No.
This is the world.
I understand that, but again, the stuff that so NASA confirms there's water on Mars. What else did they confirm? Was it just water, or did they
not
also
not life?
Did they confirm structures? Did they confirm any evidence of all?
NASA wouldn't confirm.
Why?
Because they're not in the business to expose everything, right? They're not in the business to expose alien life. They don't really necessarily, it's not their MO is just space exploration and colonizing.
Right, but I mean, they would absolutely report. If you were floating around in space, you work for NASA, you're telling me that you wouldn't immediately report it if you saw a fucking crazy aircraft.
They would report it, sure, but they would report it to their uppers in NASA. So NASA knows about it,
right? I mean,
they're just not divulging it. They're just not divulging it to the people.
But I think you're making assumptions about the way NASA operates. The bottom line is neither one of us know because we don't work for NASA.
I mean, I said, well, yeah, we're not the board of NASA.
I just think that if we were able, if aliens actually happened, it wouldn't stay a secret. It just wouldn't. There's no way.
Did you see the recent footage that was released? That was C.I.A. and it was.
No, I don't know. You'd have to show it to me.
When this goes.
Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification.
It was also featured on Tom DeLonge's To the Stars. Tell me what you think.
That was the government bullshit name for this program that did exist.
Dude, this is fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's look at that thing. It's rotating.
And see, with the clarity thing, it's a shame.
I know, but it's infrared. It's infrared. It doesn't show up on visible. It's if you had regular.
It was night.
No, this is daytime. There's technology that we don't understand that allows them to bend light, and that we don't.
See, but
they're close. So they are. If I see to use the stupid sci-fi term, they're close. So, but with infrared, you still see them. Like that,
right?
But no, how many people do you know have infrared capability? There's no app on your phone that allows you to see infrared. No one's got. They're super expensive for a reason. Night vision, all that. Even old generations of night vision are still stupid expensive.
Yeah, I guess my first instinct with something like this would be that people are hiding things, not that aliens are here hiding. I guess, I would think that
I believe that
they might not necessarily want everybody to know yet that they do have a craft like that. Think about the stealth fighter and stuff, how far we've already come with our.
No, I don't disagree, but we've definitely made leaps and bounds and stuff, but I mean, either A, you can attribute that to our ingenuity and say that it just sort of if you follow the arc, then sure, maybe we have anti-gravity. But to go from airplanes only 100 years ago, roughly, to anti-gravity is just like a huge leap in physics that hasn't been publicly explained or just put out. So that's a problem. And so they have anti-gravity, which would solve like a lot of things. That would, if we had consumer anti-gravity, where we could just like manipulate gravity and just be able to do whatever we want with any object and just control and manipulate it and move it with whatever capability they have, then, I mean, think of the implications. Anyone could build like skyscrapers or monuments. Like anyone could do whatever they want. So, or use it in a ship and just take off into the stars. Like, there's just, this thing is unlimited. It's unlimited energy. You know what I mean? It's like, it is the answer. This sort of technology, and if this is true and they have it, and they haven't been given it to us, that is a problem.
Right.
Or it is aliens, and I personally are extraterrestrials, and I do believe that is probably the case. That is only the reason why we've made the leaps and bounds we have, is because that we've been visited, we've been seeded certain technologies to help us advance.
But how did they get their technology?
I mean, they've just been around for a long fucking time. I mean, that is just the working order
of the
universe. The universe is ancient. I mean, beyond ancient.
Yeah, that's true.
It's billions and billions and billions of years old. So, and it's going to continue on for another billions and billions and billions of years, we presume, as long as things just continue.
I think that we would be able to create a lot of things. We look at how much that we know about that we've already made. We have advanced significantly in the last almost 100 years or 150 years,
almost astonishingly. And if you look at the date of July 4th, 1947 or something like that, whatever it was, Roswell, New Mexico. If you look at that date of that crash, and I'm not saying that's the first time that we actually started to like communicate with them in any real way, but it was always on their terms, I believe. Now at this point, somehow we got the upper hand and we used it against them. We brought a ship down, we confiscated the technology, and we learned a lot, like circuitry. So if you look at that date and then you start to look at the boom in industry and new technologies, it's kind of amazing. It's kind of like impressive, and you're like, well, where, it's like, I don't know. There's certain things that I just feel like we definitely.
Oh no, and you're not alone. I personally, I don't agree overall. I don't think that aliens have been here and they've helped us or anything like that. Because again, if you say that they gave us the technology, you're left with it's the same as the God argument, saying God made us. Okay, well, where did God come from? Aliens gave us this technology. Well, where did they get it from? I think it's entirely possible, and we've already proved it, that we can build things. Amazing technology. However, I do think anything's possible. The fact that we've gotten to this point in evolution, it definitely could have happened and probably did happen somewhere else. But I don't necessarily think that they've made their way here. I don't think that there's enough evidence for that personally. There are questions, as always, with everything. And I'm sure that the government always has and probably always will do shady things, keep things a secret, be experimenting with craft that they're not quite, maybe they're ethically questionable or whatever. So they're like, you know what, we're gonna test this out. We're not gonna tell everybody yet. Look at the atom bomb. That was a secret for a while. Yeah. So that's just the way that those companies or whatever the government works. Yeah. I think it'd be interesting if we knew about aliens, but I mean, it would just be so crazy. It would change everything. It would, and like we always assume their nature, which annoys me. We're putting what did Michael Shermer put it a certain term, phantom something, or when again it basically creating an entity for a question mark, putting a face to something that we don't know about, something that probably doesn't actually exist. And I think that's the case with aliens. We make all these assumptions like that. That they're automatically more advanced than us. I always found that funny.
I'm sure there are probably plenty of planets with sentient beings that aren't as advanced.
Maybe, yeah, but again, it's all just theories.
We would never meet them because they're stuck on their planet.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They're all, and we assume that they would, even. You'd have to assume that their culture in general would just be so different. I mean, look at the differences between our own countries.
But that in itself can be a fallacy. Just because it's something that we can't know doesn't mean it's going to be radically different. That's very true. That's very true. And maybe there could be a very normal sort of order to each solar system based on that sun and its gravity and the way.
Very possible. I think a lot of it is influenced though by movies, Star Wars, Star Trek.
Our culture though again is storytelling And I feel like a lot of our stories are retells of the same basic fundamental
absolutely.
things. You know, so
we humanize it. We always
that's a coping mechanism,
right? That's what I'm saying. We assume the nature of something that doesn't actually exist. We're putting, you know, like you see it hilariously in Star Trek. You know, they're all wearing the same clothes and stuff, and they all somehow can handle the same levels of oxygen or whatever. Like, and they're all got 2 legs, and they're all can be happy and mad, and they have a military. Like, they may not even be like that.
Right.
We just don't know. We automatically humanize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. We want it's something that people want to be true. We don't want to necessarily, and I do too. I think it would be amazing to come across another form of intelligent life, or any life in general.
Right.
Even an animal that spawned on a different planet.
Right. Would be impressive.
What would their, you know, an animal on Jupiter or something somehow, like what would their chemistry be like? It would be totally different because the planet is completely different. Yeah. So, but that's the point. There's just so many questions. There really is. On our own planet, there's so many unanswered questions.
That's the thing. I mean, our oceans, we only know like 1% of it. That's the top like slice of it.
That's so crazy.
That's nothing, dude. We know nothing about our oceans.
Well, there's so much more ocean too than there is.
And it's like, dude, that's all habitable space in some way. You can go down to the bottom, anchor down, build some.
Well, yeah. If we were able to build structures that could handle water pressure of that kind.
Right. Yeah. There's shallow seas.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but I don't think we'd be making condos in the Marianas Trench. You know what I mean?
I imagine almost like ant colonies, kind of like branching out, like pods.
So I would not want to live underwater.
I would. I'd do it.
I would visit like one of those cool places, like the glass tunnels. I think there is. It some at SeaWorld or something like that.
There's one. Well, there's one in like I think like a Las Vegas like Hard Rock Cafe at one of the casinos in Las Vegas has a shark tunnel. Yeah. There's like a bull shark or 2 bull sharks in there.
No shit.
But then there's an aquarium. I think there's at least a couple of aquariums that actually they're the ones that kind of started that whole thing. You could walk under the glass and actually kind of like be in the environment among them.
No shit.
Which is genius. When I was a kid and I first saw that, man, I wanted to go to there so bad. Like as a kid, whenever my dad would be like on a weekend or something or on a vacation, like, you know, what do you want to do? My answer was always like, you know, museum, aquarium, zoo, something like that.
I've been to a handful of pretty good museums.
But so when I saw that as a kid, I was just like, dude, I have to go there. But it was like San Diego or something. It was some zoo aquarium out there, and I was like, I'm going to go there.
Arizona has some amazing zoos.
Yeah. At this point in my life, I'm ethically challenged by zoos.
I know, me too.
I get them and I appreciate them, but at the same time, I wish they didn't exist. Yeah. So yeah. I went to out of Africa. That was a really cool zoo. I mean, they had every. You know, when I think because of that heat, they have everything. The coolest zoo experience of my life is I was as a Boy Scout. True honesty here. I only joined the troop because I heard through a friend who was in it that their troop trip was to go to New Jersey and go to the Six Flags in New Jersey, and they had a fucking drive-through safari, and I was like,
"Oh, really?"
Yeah. So I was like, "Say what?" So I, started, like, as soon as I heard about that, I started putting the seeds into my grandma and my dad's ear, like, I was really thinking about the Boy Scouts, and my buddy Chris is in this lodge over here. And then they got me, to go, and I got in and all that stuff, and I got to go on the trip. And yeah, it was by far the coolest. So we were in a sweet-ass charter bus, like a nice bus with, like, TVs and shit, and comfy seats or whatever. And we're driving through a fucking safari. And they're just monkeys climbing on the bus. There's giraffes just walking by.
No shit.
One giraffe poked his head through the driver's window, and he had like a bag of like cheese curls on his lap. And this thing's tongue just came out and just like took a cheese curl.
I'm assuming he must have been rolling along pretty slow then.
You're in a line of traffic because it's a busy fucking place, basically. But yeah, you're in like groups of traffic, I think.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, you're ushered through by like a lead vehicle. A few like cars go and like whatever. But yeah. So yeah, you're going at a slow pace, and dude, the animals were all, they were even like predators, but like, so you could see lions and stuff. Now, the way that they're designed is actually, you can't see it from your car, even like sticking your head out the window. You have to be up for a distance, but there's actually a giant gap between you and the lions with like a pit that they can't jump across.
No shot. Okay,
so from your perspective, it looks like they're just out over there, but there's these like lions right there, dude. Whoa, this is nuts. How are they not like doing anything? but they're actually really far away, totally secluded from you, and they. Yeah,
that wouldn't be pretty having them jump through the window.
No.
Well, again, it would be cool. But
the car is surrounded by herbivores and monkeys and stuff. So lions, if they're hungry or bored, they just because they're cats, so they're like a squirrel. They just.
I want a hug.
You can't. Yeah. Anyway, good talk, man.
Yeah,
good talk.